seat in the state of Tennessee, and the Republican candidate won. And a win is a win, right? Well, still, Democrats seem to be smiling this morning. Why? Because the margin of defeat was much slimmer than Republicans have been doing in that district. With us now, CNN chief data analyst Harry Enten. Let's talk about the numbers.
Let's talk about the numbers. Republicans should be running for the hills this morning because the blue wave is building, my dear friend, Mr. Berman. What are we talking about here? Well, Matt Van Epps, the Republican candidate, he won it by 9, but this is a district that Donald Trump won by 22 points, 15 points, 17 points. This is a 13-point gain for the Democrats in terms of the margin, and excuse time for Republicans is over because I hear all about these special elections. Oh, the turnout's so low. It's not representative of what happened in the midterm election. The turnout last night in Tennessee's 7th district was equal to the turnout in the 2022 midterm election. So the blue wave, it seems to be building right out of center of Tennessee.
Interesting. I mean, so in terms of the numbers, the turnout looked like a regular midterm election, not a special election.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And of course, we have, what, about 11 months?
All right. What have we seen in terms of trends in all the special elections the last year?
Okay. You know, I wouldn't necessarily give a hoot and a hollering about one special election in Tennessee. I love the people in Central Tennessee, but Central Tennessee is nothing special compared to the rest of the country. But what we see happening is, take a look here. Okay, 2025 U.S. House special elections. Dems outrunning Kamala Harris. A lot of blue here, a lot of blue, which is what I think the nation might look like a year from now if these results hold. Arizona 7, you see a 17 outperformance of Kamala Harris. 23 points in Florida 1, 16 points in Florida 6, 13 points in Tennessee 7, 28 points in Texas 28, and then 17 points in Virginia 11. So we've seen it throughout the nation, whether you go from the suburbs of Washington, D.C., all the way to the southwest in Arizona, whether you're looking at Texas, whether you're looking at Tennessee, whether you go down to Florida, we have seen the Democratic outperformance of Kamala Harris happening across the political map. What happened last night in Tennessee ain't just staying in Tennessee. It is spreading itself throughout the nation. As I said, to me, looking at these results, it looks like a blue wave is building.
And it's not just that it's blue, it's that it's double-digit blue.
It is exactly right. It's double-digit blue. I will note, I looked at the stats. If, in fact, you had a 13-point shift like we saw in Tennessee, and you applied that to the 2024 presidential map, we are talking about a gain for Democrats of north of 40 seats.
All right, in terms of the history, what does this mean as we project forward?
Okay, so we're looking at these special elections. We're sort of applying these hypothetical numbers, right, in terms of, Democrats would gain north of 40 seats if, you moved everything over, 13 points from the 2024 presidential result. But we actually have history to show that what happens in special elections doesn't just stay in special elections. It spills over to the midterm results. Special elections and midterm results. I just keep going to this. When a party outperformed in special elections since 2005, 5 out of 5 times they went on to win a majority in the U.S. House of Representatives. What happened last night in Tennessee is a very, very bad omen for Republicans and a very, very good omen for Democrats.
Harry Enten, thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.
This morning, the results are in, and the Republican candidate won a special election for an open seat in Tennessee. The Republican won. So why are Democrats smiling? You're looking at the results here. Matt Van Epps beat Afton Ben by about 9 points. But this is a really red district. It's a district that President Trump won by 22 points last year. With us now, CNN chief political analyst David Axelrod. And Ax, when we look at the list of special elections over the last year, this was a 13-point swing in Tennessee. Swings of, 17, 19, 16, 12. What's really impressive is I did all that math on the fly. But what do these trends tell you? If you're in the party right now in Congress, what are you thinking?
Well, first of all, a little noted fact about this election was the Republicans came in like gangbusters at the end to save Van Epps, and they were successful. What they needed to do was they needed to pump up the turnout, because the lower the turnout, the better her chances. The turnout yesterday in that district was unusually high for a special. So it really mirrored a midterm election. So let's think of it as a midterm election, and their candidate ran, 13 points behind, where even with a favorable turnout where you'd expect a Republican turnout, or where the last Republican did in the last midterms. This is, look, I think they're relieved, and Democrats are encouraged. They're relieved that they didn't lose a seat, but I would not, if I were advising the Republicans, and I'm sure their advisors are telling them, we survived, we didn't thrive, and this is another warning sign about the midterm.
And healthcare was a big issue in that campaign, the expiring Obamacare subsidies.
That was what she ran on.
There's no resolution on that on December 3rd.
No, I think this is interesting. How will members of Congress who are now right up against it, the Senate's going to vote, probably do nothing, how are they going to deal with this issue of these expiring tax credits for the Affordable Care Act? And I read the result. Look, the Republican in the race his ads at the end mirrored the Democrat. Affordability, health care. What are they going to do? Are they actually going to let these exponential increases in premiums go through? If they do, I think they do it at great peril.
Yeah, look, I don't think we even understand what the political consequences would be, because we haven't seen anything like that happen so quickly, relatively speaking.
And John, we ought to point out that it's coming at a time when healthcare premiums overall are rising, and people are not going to distinguish between the Affordable Care Act premiums and the general rise in premiums. They're going to look at it and they're going to say, they didn't do anything, and now I'm paying.
You talked about affordability.
Yes.
President Trump spoke a little bit about affordability in a way that I think probably alarmed some of his political advisors.
I would think so.
Listen.
Yeah. There's this fake narrative that the Democrats talk about, affordability. They just say the word. It doesn't mean anything to anybody. You just say it. Affordability. I inherited the worst inflation in history. There was no affordability. Nobody could afford anything. The word affordability is a con job by the Democrats.
Yeah. Look, I don't know whether he wasn't paying attention during the last election, but this is exactly how Joe Biden got in trouble, by insisting that the economy was strong, that the inflation issue was under control. When people were going to the grocery store and going, paying their rent and their insurance and all of their costs, and they saw in real time what was happening, and it's still happening. We're no better off on inflation today than we were the day he walked in. And how long can you keep blaming the last guy for your problems? You know, Harry Truman said the buck stops here. The motto of this administration seems to be the buck stops there.
He seems so pained talking about it. He came off the pain a little bit with Mamdani a week and a half ago, but now it just seems like it's like the Fonz who could never say he was sorry. I don't know if you remember Happy Days.
Yes.
Like President Trump seems to not be able to get the word affordability out.
No, because I think he promised to very quickly bring down prices. That was the offer in the election. He's failed, and that's the reason his numbers are tumbling more than anything else.